Have you ever felt like you are doing absolutely everything right? Praying without ceasing, fasting, seeking counsel, but heaven is completely silent? You are waiting for a miracle, crying out for a breakthrough in the dark. And yet, nothing changes. The days turn into weeks. The weeks turn into months. And it is so incredibly easy to feel forgotten in the waiting room of life. You know the exact feeling of this waiting room. It is the heavy friction of your knees against the carpet as you plead for the 100th time for a wayward child to come home. It is the stinging, hot tears soaking into your pillow at 2 a.m. when the anxiety simply will not let you sleep. It is the hollow echo of a quiet house, the terrifying glare of a medical bill you cannot pay, or the sterile, chemical smell of a doctor's office where you were just handed a diagnosis that shattered your world. In these moments, exhaustion sets into your very bones. You have read the scriptures, you have claimed the promises, and you have stood firmly on your faith, but the mountain standing in front of you has not moved a single inch. The temptation to collapse under the weight of your own discouragement is overwhelming. But what if the key to unlocking your miracle isn't found in just praying harder or begging God for an answer? What if there is a secret spiritual weapon you haven't fully used yet? What if your breakthrough is waiting on the other side of a sound you have yet to make? Picture the absolute, suffocating darkness of a Philippian dungeon at midnight. The air is thick, stale, and smells of damp earth, rust, and unwashed bodies. Paul and Silas are sitting on a cold, unforgiving stone floor. Their backs are torn to shreds, bleeding and raw from a brutal, unjust beating they endured earlier that day. Every breath they take pulls at the lacerations across their skin. Their feet are locked tight in heavy wooden stocks, cramping their muscles, making every single movement a sharp, breathtaking agony. There is no natural light seeping through the cracks. There is no comfort to be found. There is no logical, earthly reason to harbor even an ounce of hope. And yet, in the heavy silence of that midnight hour, they don't complain. They don't question God's goodness or ask why He abandoned them in their darkest hour. Instead, a soft melody begins to echo off the damp stone walls. They start to sing hymns. They start to praise God right there in the darkest, most painful moment of their lives, long before the first hint of dawn, long before they see any sign of a rescue. Imagine the scene. 2 men, battered and bleeding, their voices likely weak and cracked from dehydration and pain, choosing to open their mouths and declare the majesty of God. The sound ripples down the dark corridors. The scriptures tell us that the other prisoners were listening to them. Hardened criminals, thieves, and murderers sat in the pitch black, captivated by this inexplicable sound of joy rising from the deepest, most miserable pit of the prison. Paul and Silas did not wait for the pain to stop before they worshipped. They did not wait for an apology from the magistrates. They did not wait for the chains to fall off. They weaponized their worship right in the middle of their agony, and heaven responded to the sound. Suddenly, a massive earthquake violently shook the foundations of the prison. The cold stone floor rolled and heaved beneath them. The thick, wooden doors splintered and flew wide open. The heavy iron chains that bound every single prisoner immediately snapped and fell away. The atmosphere of praise had literally shattered the physical atmosphere of their captivity. But notice the sequence of the miracle. The praise did not follow the breakthrough. The praise provoked the breakthrough. Perhaps you are standing right now in your own version of a Philippian dungeon. Your circumstances are binding you. The pain is agonizingly real, and the darkness feels completely impenetrable. Logic is screaming at you to despair. Your mind is telling you to give up, to shrink back, to accept that this is just the way your story ends. But you have a choice to make in your midnight hour. Will you let the darkness silence you? Or will you force your soul to sing? To understand the sheer magnitude of praise as a weapon, turn your gaze to the ancient, arid wilderness of Tekoa. Imagine the dust kicking up into the hot desert sky as a vast, terrifying alliance of Moabites, Ammonites, and Meunites marches toward the kingdom of Judah. King Jehoshaphat and his people are vastly outnumbered. The sensory reality of their impending doom is paralyzing. You can almost hear the distant, thunderous rhythm of thousands of enemy boots marching across the dry earth, the terrifying clash of swords against shields, and the glint of the merciless desert sun reflecting off a sea of enemy spears. In the camp of Judah, the smell of fear and panic is palpable. Women hold their children tightly, grown men tremble at the sheer scale of the approaching slaughter. They are trapped. King Jehoshaphat falls on his face before God, openly admitting his absolute helplessness. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. He prays. God's response through the prophet Jehaziel is completely contrary to human logic. Do not be afraid, and do not be dismayed at this great horde. For the battle is not yours, but God's. But it is what Jehoshaphat does the very next morning that reveals the astonishing power of praise. He does not send his most ruthless swordsmen to the front lines. He does not position his archers on the ridges or call for a cavalry charge. Instead, he appoints singers. He gathers the choir. Imagine being one of those musicians stepping out onto the rocky, uneven desert floor, dressed in holy attire, walking completely exposed ahead of the armed guards. Your hands are holding instruments, not weapons. Your heart is pounding wildly against your ribs. The enemy army is a massive, dark stain on the horizon, ready to annihilate you. Yet, as they march forward into the teeth of their destruction, they open their mouths and release a sound. Give thanks to the Lord, for his steadfast love endures forever. They do not sing a battle cry of human vengeance, they sing a declaration of God's eternal nature. The melody rises above the howling desert wind, and the very moment they begin to sing and praise, the Lord sets an ambush against the enemy. The invading armies suddenly turn on one another in a frenzy of confusion. Swords clash, blood spills into the desert sand, and by the time the choir of Judah reaches the watchtower of the wilderness, they look out over a valley filled only with fallen enemies. They didn't even have to draw a single sword. Their praise was the ambush. Their worship was the warfare. Maybe you are facing a massive, terrifying horde in your own life today. It might be a horde of debts, a horde of medical complications, a horde of intrusive, suffocating thoughts, or a horde of relational conflicts that are threatening to wipe you out. You feel completely outmatched and outnumbered. You are desperately trying to figure out how to fight back, strategizing, planning, losing sleep, and trying to carry the weight of the battle on your own frail shoulders. But what if God is asking you to put down your sword and send your praise to the front lines? What if, instead of rehearsing your fears, you started declaring his steadfast love over your empty bank account, over your broken marriage, over your prodigal child? This kind of worship is not easy. It is not a light, casual song sung on a sunny Sunday morning. The writer of Hebrews calls it a sacrifice of praise, a sacrifice by its very definition, requires death. It costs you something. It costs you your pride. It costs you your right to be angry, your right to harbor bitterness, and your right to complain. When your throat is tight with grief, when your chest is heavy with disappointment, when every nerve in your body is screaming that God has forgotten you, opening your mouth to whisper, "You are good, and your mercy endures forever," is a massive spiritual earthquake. It shakes the very gates of hell. The enemy knows what to do with your fear, your anger, and your doubt, but he is entirely paralyzed by your praise when it comes from a place of deep pain. Consider the terrifying, suffocating reality of the prophet Jonah. He has been swallowed alive by a great fish, plunging into the dark, freezing depths of the sea. Try to fathom the sensory horror of that environment. It is pitch black. The crushing pressure of the deep ocean surrounds him. The smell is an overpowering stench of brine, rotting kelp, and gastric acid. He is tangled in seaweed, violently tossed in the belly of a beast, buried alive in the heart of the sea. He has reached the absolute bottom of human existence, brought there by his own rebellion and mistakes. He is completely isolated from the world of the living. From inside that dark, acidic tomb, Jonah prays. But pay close attention to the climax of his prayer in the 2nd chapter of the book of Jonah. He doesn't just beg for his life. He doesn't just promise to do better. In the darkest, most foul-smelling, impossible prison imaginable, Jonah makes a radical shift. He declares, "But I, with the voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed I will pay. Salvation belongs to the Lord." He offers a voice of thanksgiving while he is still covered in seaweed. He offers praise while he is still trapped inside the fish. He does not wait to feel the warm sun on his face or the dry sand beneath his feet before he decides to be grateful. He praises God from the pit. The very next verse reveals the power of that choice. "And the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah out upon the dry land." The voice of thanksgiving literally nauseated the beast that was trying to consume him. His praise commanded his deliverance. What beast is trying to consume you right now? What dark, suffocating belly of depression, anxiety, or grief are you currently sitting in? You might feel completely tangled up in the consequences of your own mistakes, or entirely swallowed by circumstances beyond your control. You may feel like you have been buried alive in a situation that is slowly draining the life out of you. Do not wait for the fish to spit you out before you decide to sing. Do not wait for the enemy army to retreat before you declare the goodness of God. Do not wait for the prison doors to swing wide open before you decide to worship. Your praise is not just a reaction to a victory. It is the very vehicle that brings the victory. It is the key that unlocks the heavy iron door. It is the ambush that confuses the enemy. It is the sound that causes the earth to shake. You have the power to shift the atmosphere of your life right now, in this exact moment. You don't need a perfectly tuned instrument, and you don't need a choir. You just need a willing heart and an open mouth. Even if your voice trembles, even if your eyes are filled with tears, even if it is nothing more than a broken whisper in the dead of night, let your praise rise. Speak to the darkness and tell it about the light. Speak to your chains and tell them about your deliverer. Speak to your impossible mountain and tell it about the God who moves the earth. You have been sitting in the waiting room, wondering when heaven will finally speak. But perhaps heaven is waiting for the sound of your sacrifice. Lift your voice. The midnight hour is passing, the foundations are beginning to shake, and your chains are waiting to fall.